Jonathan, what would your view be on resisting repossession when you're falling behind with the mortgage?
I think you, first of all, should take steps to avoid getting so behind. People have just got this view that you cannot lose with property. And, of course, clearly, in the early 90s, 300,000 people had their homes repossessed, and we're up to nearly 50,000 a year now, and it's going to go more. You probably should get repossessed. The problem is you don't actually have an option. You make it sound as if you can do this or you can do that. Of course, as Rob did, he was borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and there's no point doing that. But ultimately, if you don't pay your mortgage, you lose the property because, as Mr. Blanchard said there, the bank has got to report to the shareholders. So, repossessed. But, the bigger picture is far more important than this. Mr. Blanchard says you'll get rehoused. There are hundreds of thousands of families and people on council house waiting lists. I don't know where they're going to get rehoused from. And the other thing is, if, as I said before, if when the lender repossesses your property and they then sell it through an auction house, if there's a shortfall, they are going to come after you for years and years and years. I know people who lost their homes in the early 90s who are still being chased in the 2000s.
But if you buy a property for an investment and you want to take the profit if things go well, you have to be prepared to take a loss, and it's not for the shareholders to subsidise that loss in the bank.
And also, that is where the bulk of the repossessions are going to come from.
Well, no, but
500,000 buy-to-let mortgages were taken out at nearly the top of the biggest bubble in history in the 3 years leading up to 2007. They are going to come home to roost very soon.
I found as a councillor, when I was a councillor for 6 years, people would get in touch with me who were on the council, they're either on the council list waiting to get a house, or they were actually in a council house and were facing eviction because they were behind with the rent and everything else. And the council's position was always the same as that of a building society or bank. They would always bend over backwards to do everything they could to help that particular person. But at the end of the day, the council themselves have a duty to protect their rental income.
Let me ask you a quick question for both of you. We could move to the American system, which is part of what's behind the subprime crisis, which is that if you fall behind and you can't pay your mortgage, Jonathan, you hand the keys over and they do not chase you for the outstanding money because they've got the house that you bought. Even if they make a loss, they do not chase you for the mortgage once you've left it. Jonathan, would that be good for this country?
And then it becomes society's problem. In other words, the government takes on the responsibility to look after you. The government takes effectively the bank when the bank goes bust because no one's paying them the money. Eventually, taxes will go up, and that's what's effectively happening in the US. It's all very well that the individual hands over the keys and doesn't get chased for the shortfall for years and years, but taxes are going up. And that's what would happen in this country. So everyone else would be bailing out those who got themselves into too much debt.
Well, arguably, our taxes here may be going up because of what happened over there.
And they'll go up even further if we bring in that rule.
Thank you both very much indeed. Paul Blanchard, Jonathan Davis.